Okay, business planning clinic with Marcus. I think this is like packed house every single year. The last time that we did this last year, we had probably what, 60 people in this room. And you guys, we have experienced massive growth in our office this year. And so I'm thinking that we might even have to cap this out. We might even have to take this to the board. So please sign up and get your spot registered. To make sure that you get a spot. Family reunion, again, it's in February. We are putting together a savings plan for you guys that I'll get back to you on. But as you guys are having closings from now until then, if you want us to take a little portion out of your commission check and put it in a holding space, we can do that, save you from yourself. So you've got money in savings accounts. I think that's helpful for me too. So okay, so I want to bring up Ken. He's going to talk about this mobile home contract that he's been doing. He has worked with our attorneys, he's worked with Sean, our principal broker. He has spent so much time with this, so we're so excited to have this now. And you all have a copy here, printed out for you. And then if you'll pull it up here on the TV, so we have it for Zoom as well, that'd be awesome.
Great, thanks. Aren't we lucky to have Eaton? Let's get Eaton around him. So this has been a team effort between myself, John, Troy, our legal counsel. It's been really frustrating to be an agent and especially be somebody in leadership and have the mobile home, manufactured home sales process be part of our business, but not have a good tool to do our business. The REPC just does not work. 3/4 of the REPC doesn't apply to the purchase of a mobile home or a manufactured home. And it's been really frustrating because I know I've personally gone to the DRE and the UAR, and I know Sean has as well, and said, hey, help us with this. You know, help us figure this out. We need a contract. We need the documents. And their response was what, Sean?
It's not real property. So you're kind of on your own.
Yeah. So the UAR and the Board of Realtors and the division only license and regulate real estate transactions, real property transactions. And this is not real property. So they've said, basically, we know you do it. We're okay that you do it. But we're not going to assist you in doing it because it's not covered by your licensure. We're going to make that your broker's responsibility. And the brokerage community has kind of been slow in addressing that, but recently the DRE came out with some strong language and said, we don't mind that you do them, but here's a requirement and here's some recommendations if you are going to do it. And like I mentioned in my email, that kind of precipitated us to go this direction with coming up with our own contract, which was one of their recommendations, and to have something that better fits this kind of a transaction. The other thing is that the value of these are getting higher and higher. When I got started in the business 30 years ago, average mobile home was about 10 grand. You know, it was like buying a car, you know, but today, what's the average price for a mobile home?
8 grand.
That you guys are listing that's in a park. $75,000 is the median price. So they go up as high as $200,000, which is where a condo or a townhouse used to be years ago. So this is the new affordable housing in the state of Utah. So if you've had resistance to doing mobile homes, which I have, you know, I think in order for you to be successful in this market and in this climate, you need to add mobile homes to your portfolio because it's going to be a larger and larger segment of our business. So, and there's no reason why you should be resistant now. We have the tool to do the job, and we're here to support you and help make that process easier and better. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So in the first paragraph there, we just kind of explained why we came up with this contract. And it's because of the division of real estate, like I said, it's because of our leadership team, and it's because of our legal team that have said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's embrace it, let's do it right, and let's keep everybody out of trouble. So that's why we came up with this. So the first few sections of this contract mirror the sections in the REPSI. So section 1 of this contract mirrors section 1 in the REPSI, and that is the property description part of the transaction and the buyer and seller information. Okay, it looks different because we've changed the information that you're providing. Instead of putting the tax ID number, putting the address and those kinds of things, we're putting the license plate number because the property may actually have a physical license plate on it. It has a manufacturer. Who is the manufacturer? Is it Winnebago? Is it Holiday Rambler? You know, who's the manufacturer of the home? They all have a model number and they do have a serial number. And you can find that serial number affixed to the frame of the unit. Usually it's on the right side towards the rear of the unit, but there is a plate on the units. If it's a really old unit, you may have difficulty reading it. It may be rusted, whatever, but they do have a serial number. Much like your car has a vehicle identification number. And so we've got a VIN. So your manufacturer, the size, is it a 20 by 50? Is it a 15 by 60? You know, what is the size? And what's the current location of the home? Then we've got the buyer information. So who is the buyer? Who is the seller? Also in section 1 of the REPSI, we talk about inclusions and exclusions. So this here again, this is the same. So we're talking about inclusions in the transaction. We've got a list of things that are typically included in the transaction. So become familiar with this. There again, it's very similar to the REPSI. But and then there's also a place for additional inclusions, just like on the REPSI. And then we've also got a place for exclusions on the property. And there again, it's very similar to the REPSI. The televisions are excluded, but the brackets are included. Okay. Any questions on section 1 so far? Okay. Section 2 is the same as the REPSI as well. And this is the price and the financing of the property. Section 2 of the REPSI, we talked about, okay, what is the purchase price? The purchase price, we have deposit. And here, this is particular on this one, 2B, who's holding the deposit? We are not going to hold the deposits, which you guys typically would refer to as earnest money in a real estate transaction. And that's because the Division of Real Estate, their requirement for us to do these and do them right is that we do not hold the deposit for these in our trust account. They said, if you hold the deposit for these types of properties in your trust account, we will consider that commingling. Is commingling a good thing?
No.
No. No, that's a good way for us to be in trouble big time. And so we can't do that. The Division of Real Estate has been very specific. You do not hold those monies. So I'm sure your wheels turning in your mind. Well, if we're not, the brokerage isn't going to hold it, Ken. Who's supposed to hold it? Anybody can hold it. Our preference is that the seller hold it. Okay. So that's our preference. You can have the buyer hold it if the seller's okay with that. We don't recommend, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but we don't recommend that you hold it. Because that increases your liability. You could lose it, you know, whatever. So our recommendation to you is to have the seller hold. Okay. All right, so then we kind of financially talk about, okay, here's the purchase price, here's the deposits, here's going to be the remaining at closing. Then we talk about seller disclosures. So in this contract, just like in the REPSI, there is a seller disclosure deadline. Those items listed in section 3 need to be provided to the buyer by the seller disclosure deadline. Okay, the other thing that's unique to this, which really isn't unique, is that they need to provide the park information, which is not directly, but loosely correlated to the HOA. I kind of use the HOA and the park interchangeably, because in my opinion, a park organization or park management is very similar to an HOA. And I don't know, or maybe they're even legally technically with the state and HOA.
I bet they're governed by the same rules. for
Yeah,
sure.
I think they actually fall with the state under an HOA as far as their licensing and their regulations, so. So in that section, it says that they need to notify the buyer as to the contact information of the park. Why is it important for the seller to give the park information to the buyer as far as who they need to talk to, phone numbers, email addresses, physical addresses? What's the importance of that?
So you have to approve.
Yep.
Whether or not that you can be in the park, so you have to get approval before you submit your offer.
Yep. Very good. So you don't necessarily get approval before you submit your offer. It's probably not a bad idea. But the way this contract is written is that by the due diligence deadline, you need to have evaluated, the buyer needs to have evaluated whether they have park acceptance. Okay, by the due diligence deadline. So a word of caution, don't get too quick on the deadline because there is a third party involved, which is the park, in giving permission to your buyer. And sometimes the park do some pretty intense screening on the clients. They'll do a background check, criminal background check. They'll do a credit check. They'll check references. I've even seen them have to go before a board and have an interview on 2 occasions with a board before they're approved, and that takes time. The boards don't meet all the time. They meet weekly. They might meet semi-weekly. So my recommendation to you on the due diligence is give yourself 2 or 3 weeks on that, because we do have the park involved in the approval process. Any questions on that? Okay.
Just a quick comment. I've seen an instance where a buyer bought and closed and then was rejected approval of the park and had to resell.
Oh, no. That's not.
So it's not a small matter. Make sure that-
Christie?
Just a quick, the earnest pay deposit, so where you said deposit to seller, so seller in general or their brokerage?
Seller.
Seller.
Yep.
So what happens if the buyer cancels and the seller doesn't want to give them back, like, they have their earnest money yet, we don't have a contract that's canceled, but just, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
like the devil advocate
Yeah.
of you give a seller $1,000 and they take off and run, like, how do you protect your client in that situation if it happen to Bill?
Well,
Sorry.
so there's release language in the contract that says that as long as the buyer cancels within their time frame, whether it's due diligence or financing, the seller needs to release that money back to the buyer. Are there even instances in our current Rep C where we have cancellations and the money's being held by a third party and the seller won't release it? Yes, it happens. Unfortunately, a contract is only as good as the 2 people who have signed the contract. And if somebody is dishonest, they want to keep the buyer's money, they're going to keep the buyer's money. Problem is that we now will have to go to small claims court in order to get that back. We'll work as a brokerage leadership to help negotiate that back as well. But unfortunately, that's the downside.
And he doesn't always have to go to the seller, so
Yeah.
there's other third parties that are neutral involved with it, like, for example, the park maybe. Or, the park management, and or if there's financing, it could be them that help it, so it doesn't have to be the seller. But we're gonna get to that other part who's gonna do the settlement, and I think depending on what you're gonna do, that might be who you might want.
Yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah, if there's financing involved, they're gonna have a closer close the transaction and have the loan documents signed by the buyer. And so maybe that entity would be willing to hold the money.
So when we talk about, so it's listed on the MLS. It's a divisional, so brokerages across the state will adopt the same thing. We should not be commingling funds, correct?
They should be.
They'll be in violation if they
Yeah.
do.
So this isn't, when you say the seller's brokerage, I think that's important to know. This isn't like KW coming up with this and saying, we don't wanna do that, we're not going to. This is a divisional change that they're recommending, or is it a rule change? Like, we should not be commingling those funds because it should not be held in our trust account.
I'm gonna
I have
understand
seen
that.
some notes on a couple of recent mobile listings where the broker said they will hold the earnest money back in their operating account versus the trust account. So it is possible you could write it to the brokerage, but it wouldn't be the trust account. Their operating account. So the brokerage would need to be responsible for that. We have decided internally not to do it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of, a little bit more backstory that Ken was talking about. So not that long ago, the division came back and said, hey, guess what? These are real, or these aren't real properties, so we're not gonna support doing them. So you can't put those funds in into your trust account. So then all these brokerages, it became the wild, wild west when you're dealing with mobile homes. All these brokerages started doing their own versions of it. The park started doing their own versions. Some of the lenders that do the financing started doing their own versions of a contract. So what Troy, I, and Ken did is we talked to the other large brokerages that we know. We talked to UAR, we talked to some of the parks, we talked to financing, and we gathered a handful of these and created our own, because that's what the division said to do. Utah Association of Realtors is not going to create one because they say, yeah, we know it's housing, however, it's not real property, so we want to stay away from it as well. We want to work hand in hand with what the division says. So the rules on it are similar to as if you're buying or selling a car, right? Everyone here owns a car, right? And you sold a car before, right? Who handles it? Or the dealer. Okay, so think of it that way. So if you're going to an HOA, if you're going to a park, think of it as an HOA, and that's like the dealer. They're gonna handle a lot of the stuff. Same thing if you're doing financing. Think of them as like the dealer when you're selling your car or buying your snowmobile or whatever it is. They're gonna handle a lot of that, right? And if there's not, that's how this is written, is if there's not. So he's referring to like not the worst case scenario, but a possible case scenario.
Yeah.
Does all that make sense?
I mean, it's just like if you find a car for sale on cars.com or KSL and you go and you look at it, and you decide you want it, what do? You give the seller a deposit to hold that car until you can get your financing. It's no different. We're doing the same thing here. You're trusting the seller of that car or that RV to be honest with you in that transaction. And that's basically the same here. So we're going to do a deeper dive on this on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So I don't want to get bogged down in that, but in section 4 is due diligence and park approval. So by the due diligence deadline, you need to have both of those, okay? So section 5 is very similar to our proration section in the REPSI. So in this case, there could be an HOA, which is most typically going to be the park. And so we're going to prorate those costs that are charged by the HOA or the park and be credited to each party at settlement. If 5.2 talks about if there's special assessments, parks will levy special assessments just like cities and counties will for sidewalk replacement, lighting, street maintenance, stuff like that. So you need to find out if there's been any assessments that have been levied against that particular lot in that park. And if there are, then it needs to be decided as to who's going to pay those. Is it going to be buyer, seller, split equally, or other? Okay.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yep.
So on that, when you go to list one, make sure you go in and check that, because a lot of times the seller wants to sell because they've been told they have a certain deadline to upgrade their skirting, they have to fix their deck, they have to do, XYZ. So they're like, oh, that's gonna be about 12 grand. I don't want to do it, so let's just sell it. Then they hire an agent to come sell it. That agent never checks with the park, and all of a sudden now your buyer is buying it, and now your buyer's like, whoa, I have to fix this stuff before I can even get approved, right? So that would fall into a special assessment. So when you go to list them, ask those questions. When you go to buy, ask those questions.
Yeah, and it's not only about the park, but about that particular lot, or that particular trailer, like Sean said, because there may be an assessment or a requirement levied against that particular trailer or that particular lot. So ask that question. Just say, hey, I'm going to list lot 50 in the park, which has so-and-so's unit on it. Is there anything that I should know about any assessments or levies that have been placed on that particular property? Okay. Good. All right. So if there is a lender involved, there might be escrow fees. Rental deposits and prepaid rents by the seller are going to be prorated. HOA fees. So trailer parks are starting to levy transfer fees, and reinvestment fees, just like HOAs are. So this paragraph right here talks about that. If there's any costs associated with the change of ownership of the trailer, who's gonna pay that? Is that gonna be paid by the buyer, seller, split between the parties? Okay. So scroll up. All right, so the thing that's unique about this transaction versus what you're accustomed to is here in 5E, and that is DMV fees. So because this is a vehicle, it does have a title, a vehicle title, just like your car. And that's what gets signed by the seller. And that's what's given to the buyer for the transfer of the property is the vehicle title, just like when you buy a vehicle. Then the buyer takes that title to the DMV and has a change of title done. One of the things you need to be made aware of is that there is sales tax on these kinds of sales. And it's 7%-ish, okay, depending on the county and so forth. So you know, on $100,000 transaction, that's $700 in just sales tax. Then there could be property tax involved because it's personal. So there's personal property tax. So you as the listing agent and the buyer's agent need to understand what are the total costs that are going to be charged by the DMV in this transaction, because they can be significant. I had one a few years back, the DMV was about $3,000 between the taxes, the personal property, and then the county, it was in Davis County. Davis County levied a fee against the property, and so money had to go to Davis County as well. So make sure you understand that. We talk about utilities. We talk about withholding. So the contract says that within 4 days of the closing, the seller will pay off any mortgage that's on the property, pay any other costs associated with the property, liens, judgments, taxes, and they'll provide clear title to the buyer. Okay. Section 6 talks about the home warranty. It's just like in the REPC. Is there going to be one provided? If so, who's going to choose it? Who's going to pay for it? Section 7 talks about financing. Will there or will there not be financing? This is very similar to the section in the REPC that talks about financing. We have the buyer has the right to cancel during due diligence. And we talk about what happens if they do cancel during due diligence, the same as in the REPC. They get their earnest money back, okay, with no further demands from the seller. If they cancel after finance and appraisal, if they cancel after the financing deadline, then the the deposit goes to the seller, okay, and that's liquidated damages. So the seller cannot go back on the buyer and ask for any additional damages. They can only take the deposit.
Hey, Ken.
There is an appraisal condition because if there's financing, the lender has to be confident that that unit is going to be valued at what they're going to lend on it. So that's the same as in the REPC. Let's scroll up. So now we're talking about closing, okay? Transfer of funds in exchange for the mobile home. So at the time that we close, we need a title and a bill of sale signed by the seller. The bill of sale and the title go to the DMV. Okay, so we got to make sure that you say, well, Ken, if they have financing on it, they're not going to have the title. That's correct. They're going to pay the title off. Title's going to be given to them, and then they'll give that to the buyer within 4 days of settlement. If that's not going to be possible for your seller to do that, because let's say the lender is out of state, the title is held out of state, then you need to modify that to longer than 4 days. Okay, as the contract says that within 4 days of settlement, they're going to provide them those documents. Any questions on that? Okay, so then we talked about the closing date. We talked a little bit about closing. It's 5 p.m. on that date. Otherwise, we're in default. Then we have the disclosure deadline, seller disclosure deadline, the due diligence and park approval deadline, finance and appraisal deadline, and the settlement deadline. Very similar to what's in the REPSI. Then we have the signatures by both parties and by their agents, saying that they have verified the contract. Okay, so we've prepared a little bit of a closing statement for you here just to help with closing. If we need to add or subtract things from this, please let us know once you've done a few deals. But basically, the thought behind this is that we have the total purchase price, we have the deposit that was given prior. If the seller is paying the buyer, anything, points, repairs, whatever, that's listed. The part fees that are owed to the park. If there's a home warranty, the home warranty cost. These two items are asterisk, and it says down here, paid with guaranteed funds and separate check. So at settlement, you want to make sure that the buyer who's going to bring these funds in, or the lender, is going to prepare your commission check for you at the time of settlement, okay? So that you can walk away from settlement with your commission check and guaranteed funds and bring it here to the brokerage. Okay. Department of Motor Vehicles fee. There's a section in there that talks about who pays the fees. If it's going to be paid by the seller, then those fees need to be taken out of the seller's proceeds. Any miscellaneous costs, and then the net proceeds is going to be how much the final check is to the seller. Okay, it's going to help you with some of those costs. Okay, let's go to the next document. The addendum. Yeah, the addendum. So we've also prepared an addendum to the contract. So this is the mobile home addendum. So it has verbiage in it specific to a mobile home. And so we want you to use this addendum when you're doing your mobile home purchases rather than the other addendum. The other addendum talks about real estate. This does not. This talks about manufactured and mobile homes. So you have an addendum there for any changes. And then we've also changed our earnest money confirmation. If you look about 3/4 of the way down, we've added a question on here that says, is this a mobile home transaction? Yes or no? Because we want you to disclose that to us, because we're not going to accept the deposit money if it is a mobile home. And that's the only way that we can know if it's a mobile home, is if you tell us it's a mobile home. Okay, all right, that's a real brief overview on the contract. Yeah.
How to finance it, so. Those were initially approved, that they were no family, and then after the process, they would look at mobile home. So let's just say devil's advocate again, and let's say that they offered on a single family home, they deposit earnest money to brokerage. I know where this is going, but let's say they then so we marked this as, no, but it's not, right, if they're going to no family, but then partway through their process, they cancel that contract, obviously we would release funds, or maybe they don't keep it in there. And then we get them under contract, and if they want to purchase on a mobile home, we still have money to spend initially deposit. I know we would release that, but how, because I know that's super messy, that might be a one-off, but it might not be. With the market we're
I think
having.
it's probably gonna happen more commonly.
That's the preferred distribution. And that's it would be treated as good as going other than anyway, even though it's notice.
And we would probably want to release it back to the buyer and then have the buyer recut the check to the seller.
Yeah.
So the paper trail follows.
Good question.
I've got a question. So if we're gonna either have it with the lender, the earnest money, or possibly with the seller, can we have a document that basically has, so that the seller signs that says they accepted that, so that legally our buyer would be protected and it show that they received?
That's what they're talking
So
about.
this would show it, they would sign it, and show the seller would sign it here?
It's
showing that
whoever
they-
received it.
Yeah, and the contract also
So
says,
they received it.
yeah, and under section 2 of the contract, it says who's holding the deposit.
Okay.
And then both parties sign it. So that's your verification, that's that's the binding document. Section 2 plus the confirmation.
Are you guys so excited? That's why you need to come Thursday at 1. We're gonna do a deeper dive. We're gonna answer all your questions.
So as much as it sounds kind of complicated, convoluted,
It's
it's really
really
not. Like, we as realtors always just overcomplicate this transaction. It's super easy, and again,
Just
the lead
different.
opportunities and
It's
the-
different.
what's out there, really, it's pretty massive. There's a lot of people that are in a pinch looking for a place. This is better than renting it. We're still renting the lease or the lot, but
It is very.
yeah, payment vary, it depends on the property, I would say, and the person, but, you know, if this is what the focus is, just be mindful of how it works, and then optimize your opportunities maybe to get the leads you can.
Well, if you look at. Yeah, I mean, you look at how they've appreciated over the years, they've doubled, tripled in value, so that's better than renting, right? Hannah?
Will these be uploaded into DocuSign or the opportunities tab? Okay, so then that way we don't have to scan it.
So just so you're aware, we know they're not perfect. Just since we've been talking more in depth about it, we found a couple things that we're going to adjust and change. So we're not gonna load them anywhere until we make those changes, but we'll let you know. But we're not far away from doing it.
Yeah, if you need to reach out to us, we'll give you a one-off for now. I've just noticed stuff as I've been going through it, so it's a living, breathing document. And so there's gonna be other changes that we do, so be patient with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guys, if you give Ken and Sean a few.
I have a
They're
question.
changing and evolving, we're ahead of it. so
You guys
thank you so
can
much.
spend a ton of man hours dealing with this and stress.
Alicia, I don't think they can hear you.
And didn't work very
Yeah, I
well,
don't think
we
so
lost
either.
nights of sleep and.
Yeah.
I think the TV volume is
That's it, 1
down.
o'clock. Put it in your
Yeah.
calendar right now, please be here. In the meantime, I'd recommend that you guys read through the contract, familiarize yourself with it. And as questions come up, like earnest money or whatever, just write them down and come to that class prepared with those questions, so they can make sure that you're confident and comfortable with how it works.
Cause if any of you guys call me at Saturday, I don't know, like at 3 and say, I got a mobile home question, you're not gonna get that answer.
Okay,
Is that gonna be on Zoom too?
yes, we'll roll recording. Okay, one quick more announcement before we get started with our content. So Brooke, please come and tell us what you got.
Yes. Hello, thank you guys for giving me a minute today. So I serve as the vice president on the Friends of the Davis County Children's Justice Center. And I got involved with the CJC in about 2016. Not something I was really looking for, but when the most terrible, awful thing came to my doorstep and affected my family, and I didn't know where to turn. I had to call police and courts and help my children, and just didn't know where to turn. And I was directed to the CJC, which is in Farmington. You guys, this is the most incredible place, because what they did for me as a mother, not knowing where to begin and how to process everything, is they just gave me tools. They gave me resources. They brought my family in, and they've got like everything you can imagine. So they bring the police in, they bring nurses in, they bring investigators, and they're behind a glass when kids are interviewed. It's videotaped so that these kids only have to tell their story one time. That's fantastic. And not only while you're there, because it's, you know, it's a building, and you're having to go through some of the worst stuff you ever want to go through, or don't ever want to go through. They have couches and books and snacks and services just to make you feel comfortable. It's a very family environment, and it did feel very comfortable sitting in that lobby in a most horrible time of my life. So these are just a couple of stats to share with you guys from January to July. The number of children that are affected, male, female. This is the female numbers in the blue.
This is Davis County.
This is Davis County only. You guys, this is huge. You think sexual abuse and abuse on children, you know, doesn't happen in my neighborhood. It doesn't happen in my family. It does. It absolutely does. It happened in my family. It happened at our family reunions and parties and things like that. It's horrible. So I joined the board and really want to support victims and helping. This center provides services to first responders. It provides services to added therapies for kids, for families. It provides community support. And it's not something that a lot of people know about. A lot of people even know it's there. So I'll be the president here in 2 years. So this is something I'm super passionate about. Yeah, thank you. And we're in fundraising season right now. So we're getting ready to do some big volleyball tournaments. And we're not asking that you guys necessarily play, but if you want to, I can hook you up. We've got co-ed and female teams playing. Last year at the volleyball tournament, I went and Justin Yoder's face was everywhere and his name was everywhere as the sponsor. And I'm like, oh, that's the dude from my office. And I am like, holy crap. So it was really great though, to see how much support.
My spot as a sponsor.
Yeah, no, you still got it, dude. You
Okay.
got your spot. But I'm hoping that we collectively, as a Keller Williams success here in Layton, can do a collective donation. So all our donations are going through my sister, who's actually the president this year, just into her Venmo. If you want to scan that and help donate to the CJC, anything and everything is welcome. Like I said, we're providing services for the CJC to support them because it is a government run agency. The government tells them sometimes what they can and can't spend the money on. And as we know, all of us, sometimes your kids need something a little different or something a little more. And that's where we come in as friends of the Davis County CJC, is to just help fill in the gaps. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Appreciate any help you guys can give us, and thank you. Thank you, Brian.
I think it's one thing to have something that you're passionate about and to, you know, care about something, but then to get involved at that level, Brooke, like that's such a big, like I commend you for that so much. So yeah, let's do what we can to support Brooke. Okay, reminder to check your mailboxes and we're gonna get started on the content. So I know that we're a little bit crunched on time now, so we'll kind of cruise through this. One of the goals that I kind of had in mind with putting together our October training calendar that you guys have in front of you is I want to have kind of like a theme for every month. And this is specifically on like database stuff. So I'm gonna give us an overview. I really want to kind of again get back down to the basics and help kind of remind you guys of some things that we haven't really talked about in a long time and why this is important. But on the 19th at 11 o'clock, Kylie and I are going to be helping facilitate. Actually, yes, we're going to be facilitating a workshop where a lot of the database management stuff that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to sit down with you and implement it and help you establish the roles as you're adding people to your database. So it's very streamlined and very consistent. So if you don't have your 36 touch set up yet, come to that class because our goal by the end of that class is to have your 36 touch for 2024 done and ready to go. And I kind of want to get ahead of the game before we start going through all of our business planning stuff and things like that. So like the systems are already in place. So then when business planning comes up, you can think specifically about numbers and actions and everything's already ready to go. So plan on being here on the 19th if you can. And then we're going to be talking a lot about the shift tactics. So I want to kind of talk about MREA and shift's going to be towards, the end of this month. Rusty's going to be kicking off like a shift tactics team meeting on the 24th. And then on the 26th, we're actually going to be starting a book club with the leadership. Leaders read, or leaders are readers. That's the saying, right? And so I really want our leadership team to be together and reading a book a month, but I figured the best way that we can do that is by opening it up with you guys. So come and hang out with us, come and learn with the leadership and we'll be holding these book clubs every Thursday following that. But I wanted to talk about the 4 laws of lead generation today because I think over the last couple of years, we got super hyped up on online leads and social media. And I think that we really kind of got away from the models and the basic principles of running a business based off of the models of the $1 million real estate agent, right? I think that we were really busy kind of trying to keep our head above water, but now it's coming back to a skills-based market instead of a speed-based market, right? And I really think this is an important time as we're coming into the business planning time and goal setting time to to make sure that you guys are building businesses that are not only sustainable, but also very predictable. Because I think that some people have a perception that, you know, real estate has ups and it's downs, it's all over the place, but that's what the Millionaire Real Estate Agent teaches you, and that's what we're here to do, is make it so it's very consistent, and you know, within the next 90 days if you have a paycheck or not, right? So we can kind of help you tone it up or tone it down based off of where your production is. So the first thing that I want to ask, I'm gonna do a quiz, and the leadership cannot answer the question. So if you're in leadership or ownership and you can't answer this question, but the people, who can tell me what the 4 laws of lead generation are? And if you can tell me, I will pay for $25 of command ads in command. Anybody know? Okay, that's why I want to talk about this. Woo! I hope that this is of value. So this is, again, coming back to the basics. So this is all pulled from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I think that one of the reminders that I had as I was kind of putting together the content for this is, I don't know if you guys know this, and we know this as leadership, but I don't think we ever talked about it, is when we built out command, we essentially built out command with the exact same models that are in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So it's really a reflection of that book. And I think, again, kind of talking about how we were just like so busy and go that we kind of we haven't talked about the Millionaire Real Estate Agent in a hot minute, right? And so my goal today is to help you understand, okay, what is my database going to look like for next year? Because we need to be running a database-based business. And I think that's really going to help you get consistent and streamlined and making sure that we're reaching out to our people, because I think we're kind of getting away from the online leads portion of the business and we're getting back into the relationship business out, because that's what's mattering in a shifting market. Okay. Coinciding with this, have you guys seen this yet? So this book was released at MegaCamp, and this is essentially all of those playbooks and plays that Gary Keller and Jason Abrams have put together in one book. So at the end of this, I'll pull up and show you where you can buy this. It's only $25. But these are all of this is essentially the business plans of what the top producing agents in the whole company is doing. So what's really cool about this book is if there's something specific that you're wanting to focus on, it actually has it broken out into topics. So we have a database section, we have a lead generation section, we have an event section, social media, referrals, wealth building, mindset. And this is kind of parallel to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent again, right? But there's some things in here that I want to share with you guys. But let's say, for example, you really want to focus on building out your sphere of influence. So under the lead generation section, there are 4, I'll show you an example. There are 4 basically playbooks of what other agents are doing right now, and it's all outlined for you on paper. So I'll talk about one of the ones, but this is talking about private events and live events and what other people are doing literally down to the T. So as we're getting, again, setting our goals and getting more granular, every single person needs to have this book. And actually KWR is saying, if you need a coach and agent on a specific issue, pull out this book, go to what that issue is and show them exactly what this is. So this is kind of like your Bible 2.0. This is your Bible, and this is your Book of Mormon. I don't know. So I'll pull this up, but you guys need to have a copy of this for sure. So a quick little reminder for you guys.
Yes.
Was it a good analogy? Are you gonna remember now? Okay. God, family, then business. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So 4 laws of lead generation. This is all pulled from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. First rule or first law is to build a database. Second law is to feed it every single day. The third is to communicate within a systematic way. The fourth is to service all leads that come your way. So now that I pull this up, does this kind of ring a bell, people? Now we know, right? Okay. So my goal today is I want you guys to get familiar with it. I kind of want this to kind of start getting your wheels moving as far as okay, what do we need to be focusing on? What are my goals for this year? But I also want to help you make some realistic goals for this year. But I also want you to be able to leave today with some actionable items that you can do to start getting more conversations with your people and be very intentional about the conversations that you're having. Okay, so the first role, build a database. I think we all know that the truth is the size of your real estate business over time will be in direct proportion to the size of your database, is what that says. I want to read a snippet of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent for you guys. Everybody has a copy of this book, right? I do think that this is now a really good time for you guys to reread this book. And you got to read it over and over and over again, because I think the importance of that is every time you read it, you're going to be in a different place of your business. Something might stand out to you the second or the third time that didn't the first time. And so even for myself, I probably haven't read this book for about a year. And as I was reading through this, getting prepared for this curriculum, I was like, dang, I need to reread this. But I want to put this into perspective for you guys. In this section, it's on page 188. Do you guys know, first of all, how many Met people in your database you need to have in order to be a millionaire real estate agent? Isn't it like to be a millionaire agent?
14,236.
Yeah.
36.
You were wrong, you were way wrong.
Okay, and then we also talk about the differentiation between Mets and haven't Mets, but the Met number you need to have in your database to be a millionaire agent is 1,920.
Oh.
That's it. So it says, while those numbers may look intimidating, whether they do or don't for you,
Hold on, you only have to met 1,900 people.
And
Met.
consistently.
Met and consistently market to them.
I mean,
While those numbers may look intimidating, it really isn't all that complicated. If you're accounting for vacations, weekends, and sick days, the average person works roughly 240 days a year. That's the average person. I think as agents, we might work more than that, right? But let's just say the average person, 9 to 5, works 240 days a year. If you were to add one person to your Met database, each one of those 240 working days, 8 years later, you would have enough people in your Met database to be a millionaire real estate agent. Adding 2 people a day will get you there in 4 years. 3 a day will get your goal in less than 3 years. And that's assuming that you have 0 to start from. So filling your Met database could take forever, or it could be reasonably be done in as little as 3 years. So in Ignite, in the basics, the fundamentals of building a real estate business, we teach our agents to be making at least 10 contacts every single day. So if you're making 10 contacts a day, if you're doing the basics of what Ignite teaches you, in 240 days, you're going to have how many contacts? 2,400, right? So that gets you over your 16 mark of needing 1,960 contacts in your database. This is a really good reminder, and I want to, give you guys another kind of at least a goal to start with, is to get to at least 200 people in your database. And we talked a lot about the 201 Plus Club, but I want to remind you guys of why that's important. So this was pulled at the beginning of this year, I believe. So the numbers might be a little bit different, but this is from Keller Williams International as a whole company. Okay. So this is showing you the number of agents in the company that have 0 contacts in their command database are making on average $14,000. Okay. And you can see that the numbers fluctuate, but the criteria of this is that they have a contact in their database, they have a tag, and they're on a smart plan. That's the 3 criteria this graph is being gauged off of. And so you can see that there are 14,000 people that have 11 to 20 people in their database, and they're making about 40 grand, which isn't that horrible, right? But right here, you see that if you've got 201 or more people in your database, agents are making on average $120,000 a year. And so that's breaking that 6-figure mark. Okay. So that's why we are having the initiative. And that's why it's our goal as a leadership team to make sure that everybody in our office has at least 200 people in your database that are on a marketing campaign. Okay. So whether you want to be a millionaire real estate agent or not, 200 is very reasonable, you guys. It's very reasonable. I wanted to try to find the graph of the numbers for our specific office, but we did this exact same graph for our office. Do you guys wanna guess for this office, Keller and Success? The agents in our office that have at least 200 people in their database, what's the average income of those people? Guess, in this office?
164.
Hmm?
164.
164? Anybody else think of it? Okay, guess?
Why is nobody else gonna guess? I love it. Okay.
80,000. It was like 158.
Oh.
Nice. No, it.
Winner, winner.
So at minimum, if you guys don't have 2 people in your database, that's your first goal is, okay, we're now in quarter 4. How can we get you to at least 20 people by the end of the year or by the end of next year? Okay, so think about that when you're putting your goals together for next year. So I want to mastermind really quickly, you know, because, you know, everything's expensive, costs are high. What are some of the things that you're doing right now to get people in your Met database that is a really low or even free lead generation tactic that you're doing? What's that? Open houses, yes. What's that? Door knocking,
Our events are a good way to bring people in.
events, is that what you said? Events, so that's a very low cost. We as the office try to keep that as low free as possible.
Go through your cell phone and actually see everyone that isn't officially in your band, whether it's from nail people, hair people,
Mhm.
vehicle people, like really, you know, way more people than you're actually systematically.
Yep. Your phone is a database, right? Go, same thing with your Facebook, who do you know on Facebook? I highlighted this part of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Playbook. They've got 3 pages of unique touches that you can do for your database. So I'll just throw out a couple out there. Goat yoga, invite your SOI to a private goat yoga event, like that's fun. Do a casino night, movie night, lawn care, pumpkin patch was one of them on here, which we're doing tomorrow. There was another one that I thought was really cool, and I should have highlighted it, but I didn't. But one of the ones I wanted to remind you guys, and Chris was so awesome to suggest this, is pull up your client's Zestimate on Zillow and screenshot it and send it to them and ask them what their thoughts are on it. And if they want to know what their actual home value is worth, because Utah's a non-disclosure state, right? So their estimate, probably 10 out of 10 times is gonna be wrong. So today, if you're looking for somebody or a reason to have interactions with people, go to Zillow, screenshot that and ask them, hey, do you wanna know what my thoughts are on this? So that was one that I thought of. That is a free way that you can get into conversation with people. What else are you guys doing?
We're doing, a monthly, homebuyer class. We partnered with, a lender that we do a webinar once a month, and we converted. We just closed one. We have what, 3 more buyers, and then I just got 4 more leads from the last one we did. Hot buyers, like they're opting into, they have 22. And it's pretty, like, I literally sit on a Zoom, and my push is 30 minutes, she takes 30 minutes, and I sit on a Zoom in my office, and they're like coming to us, and that.
That's amazing. Love that. Okay, so something to think about. And I wrote down, use the MRA playbook. So here are some general groups of haven't mets and have mets. And obviously here's like kind of like the flow of business for your mets and your haven't mets. So obviously for the people that we know, the mets that we know, these are the people that want to help us. It's just natural, it's second nature for them. They want to help us succeed, right? So this is going to be the easiest way for us to get repeat and referral business. And this is why we want to make sure that you're running a database that has a 36 touch and you're nurturing these mets, because repeat and referral business is where we all want to be, right? And then once you feel like you've gotten a good base on a good starting point from there, then we're going to add haven't mets or create new items of business. This is showing you just kind of like the general graph of haven't mets to like your inner circle to like your core group. So obviously we have our general public, which would be you know, farming or general open houses, people that we don't know, but we obviously want to try to get from this outside circle and bring them in over time to our core advocates. Because our core advocates, these are going to be like your A+ clients that are your raving fans. They're just like word vomiting your name to everybody. And I'm going to go through the 36 touch, the 12 direct, and the 8x8. That's going to be the method of the madness into getting people from the general public into your core advocate group. Here's some quick sources for building your Met database. This is again pulled from the MREA. Family, friends, neighbors, home, school, people you do personal business with. One thing that I like to add on here is like your business to business referrals, your business to business networking. As you're talking to your SOI, like we need to be providing value to our people, right? So as you're talking with them about, hey, how's work going? How, are you still at X, Y, and Z business? If they're a roofer, if they have a cleaning company, if they have a plumber, talk to them about that and say, hey, I am building out my allied resource network. Can I add you to that? And create an allied resource network that you're now marketing to and generate that business to business referral. So I think that creates a good win-win. It provides value to them too, right? Okay, so one thing that I want to have us do right now is, and I had this idea from this book. So there is an agent who, oh wait, no, it's actually Wendy Papasan that shared this. And she has a coffee shop kind of lead generation conversation that she does. If they're kind of looking for like a Hail Mary, then this is what they do. But that's what she initially did. But now she has the people on her team do this at least twice a week. So what she does is she first of all picks a theme. So in this example, Keller Williams published a new version of Your First Home. I don't know if you know that, but it's a smaller book that Gary Keller wrote. That is the whole process of what it's like to buy your first home. So this is just their first example, okay? So that's the thing that they picked, and then they said, reach out to somebody in your network right now that's either on your mind or that you haven't connected with for a long time, and ask them to coffee. Just say, hey, I haven't seen you for a long time. I want to catch up. Let's go get coffee. So then she goes to coffee with them and she brings a copy of that book. She brings a copy of Your First Home with her business card stapled to it and says, during the conversation, you know what, this new book from Keller Williams just came out. It's called Your First Home. Who do you know that could use this book? And give them a copy of that book. I mean, there's times that I think back and people have gifted me books, and whether I read them or not, it does stand out though. It's a thoughtful gift that I think does go a long way. It's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. And then after that, continue the conversation. Thank the person for meeting with you. Now you have a reestablished connection with that person. Contact the referral and send them a copy of Your First Home. And then they've provided links in here for first time home buyer seminars. So it's all ready to go. So what I want to do right now, I want you guys to pull out your phones and I want you to think of somebody right now that you haven't talked to in a long time or that you've been meaning to contact. And I want you to ask them to coffee right now. Say, hey, you just popped in my mind. I miss you. Let's go get coffee. And we'll keep moving forward with the first person to get a response and to schedule an appointment. I've got a Starbucks gift card. I'll buy your coffee for you. And if they're not a coffee drinker, I have a Swig gift card for you. One or the other. Okay, give options. So reach out right now and just simply ask people for coffee. Because we're in the relationship business, right? But I think even just after kind of post-COVID, I feel like people are just weird. People forget to interact with people, but I think also at the same time, they're craving connection. And it's our job to provide that connection and to initiate that conversation.
And I know there's someone in the room right now who's like, well, I don't like coffee. First of all, we got a big problem.
Well,
second of
yes.
all,
Now you don't have an excuse.
yeah, there's no excuse.
Yes, wait.
Insert whatever, coffee shop experience, hike, walk, soda, ice cream, cookie,
Yeah.
insert whatever here. Stop with the excuses.
And they make
Yeah,
really
90
good
days
lemonade.
left in this year.
If they don't like coffee,
They make really good
hot
lemonade.
chocolate.
They make really good lemonade.
Yeah, or like a pumpkin spice steamer, it's steamed milk or hot chocolate, like you can still go meet at a Starbucks, but you don't have to get coffee. Okay, second rule of our database is to feed it every day. So this is again what I was mentioning to you guys. At minimum, set a goal to add at least 10 new people to your contact or to your database every day. I mean, by the end of next year, you guys, you could have 2,000 people in your database if you're adding 10 people a day. And we can get creative, go door knocking. We can do online leads if you want to do online leads. We can do business to business referrals, whatever that looks like, but set a goal, whether it's 10 or not, figure out how many people you want to have in your database and we'll make a plan around it. 2 weeks from today, we're gonna do a team meeting that's, going to equate the value of your database that you have, so lots of database talk this month. To, make it very realistic for you on what you want that to look like. But this is the basics of what Ignite teaches you, so, enter 10 or make 10 new contacts, enter 10 people in your database, make sure that they're tagged, make sure they're on a smart plan. Okay, that's what's gonna help you get to that 201 plus. Write 10 notes, like you write 10 handwritten thank you cards, send your business card with them, because those handwritten thank you cards go a long way. And then preview 10 homes a week, keeps you a good pulse of what's going on in the market, and helps you understand what is available. And then here are some suggestions for how to expand your Mets database. Again, think about that circle, how can we get that general public more into the center so that you can establish those relationships and get that repeat and referral business. We all know about the Ford script, but what I loved about this one is as you're having your Ford conversations, this is talking about some of the things to make sure that you're writing down as you're having conversations with those people. If they're talking to you about their dog, if my dog Skip just had surgery, he had cataracts or whatever it is, write that down. Hey, the dog's name is Skip, he just had surgery. So the next time that you pull up that contact and you're wanting to reach out to them to check in and say hi, say, hey, how's your dog doing? How's Skip doing? Did he recover okay? Because if you remember their kids' names, if you remember their dogs' names, if you know their spouses' names, then that's what's really gonna help you be personable and stand out, and they're gonna know that you care at that point. Okay, the playbook on page 51. One of the things as far as like feeding your database and having a presence on social media. And I'm happy to give you guys a copy of like this page or whatever pages I'm referencing until you get your own copy if you want. But this one is this is your SOI on Facebook is one of the outlines that it gives us. The creating engagement opportunities tactic that they use is they post on Facebook 10 times a week. And that seems like a lot, but they have it all written out on what that looks like, whether it's pictures, whether it's stories. And then the second tactic of creating engagement opportunities is to add 7 new Facebook friends weekly. So go through your suggested friends, see who you have a lot of people in common with, because now as you're posting on Facebook about real estate, about your personal life, you're getting that presence and that awareness with people that you don't even know. So I thought that was really cool too.
Something that we recognize in regards is everybody that's being suggested to is a real estate agent.
Is a real estate agent?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's another opportunity for you to also use the Keller Williams value proposition and build your profit share downline. I think if you can tell people what we have going on with Command, how your business is, booming, whatever that looks like, now we have an opportunity for you to get market share or mind share with other agents and then have them come over to Keller Williams because they're like, what do you have going on over there? Looks like you have something good going on. So I think it goes both ways.
One quick thing about that too, is that means, my hand was actually raised back here, Justin, you just couldn't see it.
She did have it.
That means that, so it's gonna show you more people, as you have more people in common, it's gonna show you more people. Also, the things that you're interested in, it's gonna put more people like that in front of you. So that tells me like that's really a focus of yours on social media, right? So that's gonna always happen. Great suggestion. If you don't want other agents only to be in your feed, be really intentional about who you're interacting with in your friends list. Right? I actually think there's value from you being able to show other people what you're doing and see what other people are doing. There's most ideas are indeed from somebody else, right? And if you're intentional with the people that you're interacting with in your own social media, you'll see more of those people, right? So if you're going in and commenting on something, you're gonna see that person's thing coming up in the next little bit. So if you're interacting only with other agents, you're gonna see more and more of their feed versus if you have somebody that's a friend from coffee shop or you hike with or whatever, and you comment on their things, you're gonna see their stuff.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Your turn.
You're gonna wanna write this down. There you go. It's gonna like one up, you know. So if you wanna, so this is how I built my Facebook is I found things that I was interested in. And you can search on Facebook and say you went to Weaver State, or say you love Olive Garden, or say you love this coffee shop. You can find people that tag themselves there, went there, lived there. And so when I was doing it, I said, well, who do I know in Draper, Utah? I wanna know somebody, like, I wanna find a friend, so I typed in Draper, Utah. You live in Draper, I made friendship. And so, and instead of just saying, who's suggested? Like, that's what I did, is I went northern Utah, like where I went to school, where I went to high school. Like what I'm interested in, and went and found things, 'cause then if Troy and I both like skiing, we're automatically gonna connect. Right? If I hate cats, I'm not probably gonna be best friend with you.
You're blocked.
So anyway, there's my 2 cents.
I love
And
that, yeah.
teaching social media, no.
And he has to use social media
Come
on
on,
Thursday.
Thursday.
Just come to his class
This
this
Thursday.
Thursday.
I
Yep.
cleared my schedule just for the work.
Yes.
What time?
I'll be there at 6:30, but 5:30.
Okay. We're running over time and I respect you guys' time, so if we need to leave, you can leave. I'm gonna give 10 more minutes. We can cruise through this, yeah.
I heard one more thing, but I can't remember where I heard or who said it, but like, if you have a specific client or somebody who, like a referral person who you want to kind of target, then you go specifically to that person and start commenting on their stuff, and you go find them, and then make that effort, and then that person who you're actually, kind of farming, whatever, like you like, that you want to stay closer to, then
Start
you work, yeah,
conversating.
yeah, and then you work that relationship that way.
Yep, totally. Yeah, you gotta be very intentional. So that's kind of those tactics, engaging and what that looks like is also in this book too. I'll give you guys a copy if you need a copy. Also, whoever sets that coffee appointment first, raise your hand, let me know. Oh, okay, you said coffee? All right, do you want coffee or swig? Coffee, there you go. Sweet. Yeah. You want, use that one already? That's okay, we can do swig too, I'll give you this swig one. Okay, so communicating with it in a systematic way. This is one thing that I wanted to, just remind you guys of, because I don't think this is something that we've talked about in a long time. But I think I had a really good reminder about this, because I've been helping Ken build out some of, like, one of his smart plans for a lead source that he has. And we built out this smart plan together, and I hope this is okay to use this as an example, but he had some leads that were probably 120 days old, you know, for maybe 4 or 5 months old. But we were like, you know what, let's put them in a smart plan and let's just see who we can find in this, in this, you know, database that he has of just like untapped people, right? So we built out a smart plan with Twilio texts and emails and calls. And out of like probably the 20 people that we've added to it, you've set like 5 appointments, maybe in like a week. And I was just like, you know what, that's a huge like reminder for me that like, it doesn't matter if Twilio's coming from a different cell phone number. It doesn't matter what you're sending. It's the fact of the matter that's actually getting done, right? Something is better than nothing. So that was a really big reminder for me just to kind of really see it in action. And I mean, we started that campaign last week and he's already scheduled 5 appointments just on something that's totally automated. And it took us maybe an hour to build it out. Like it's so wild. That was a really good reminder.
Yeah, thank you, Eden.
Yeah.
I was following up with phone calls, and having no success. But once we put them on a smart plan and we did the trifecta, we did the calls, the email and the text messages. Within 24 hours, people started responding. And some of them said, take me off your list. We had some of those, but probably had 4 of those and then set 5 appointments. So that's pretty good.
But it was like no skin off our back. Hey, take them off and keep finding the motivated, right? Like it doesn't matter, just keep doing it. So there's 3 different campaigns and we talk, oh, this is supposed to say 36. We talk about the most about the 36 touch campaign. But there is a method to the madness for your haven't met people, we put them on a 12 direct. And for your met people, we put them on an 8 bite and then a 36 touch. So I'll kind of explain what I built out for Ken on what that looks like. But one thing that I loved about this quote is that all three of those campaigns have one thing in common, and it's overkill over time. And if you think something's overkill, just don't worry, but it's not, because you're doing what other agents aren't doing, right? And that's what I wrote this here is your goal is to outtouch all the other agents. And especially right now, especially because, yeah, we are in the business of online leads, but also at the same time, everybody knows 6 or 7 realtors, right? So how are you that realtor that's going to stand out to them? And by utilizing a 12 direct and or an 8x8 and a 36 touch is going to help you do that. We obviously talked about the consistency and the predictability of having a consistent business. And these are the models that are proven that are going to help you establish that consistency and that predictability. One of the things that I think about all the time, especially while I'm coaching with agents, is you have to ask yourself, whether you know technology, whether you like it, whether you hate it, it doesn't matter. What's the price that you're willing to pay for not doing your job or for doing your job, right? And I think there's 3 options that you can choose from. The first price that you'll pay is to do it yourself. And I think with doing it yourself is probably going to take a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit slower because you've got a one-man band that's helping you build this out, right? But I think the benefit of doing that though is now you have that knowledge. You now learn something and now you're more confident in something. So is that worth the price to take a little bit more time, but also have that knowledge that is totally irreplaceable, right? And now you can have a standard and a system set for when you do hire people and when you do scale, you know exactly what that looks like, okay? The second price that you'll pay is, okay, if you don't want to do it yourself, then who's going to do it for you? And is that something that you're willing to take from your business and apply toward a salary or to a contracted person to do that job for you? Because either way it needs to get done, right? But if you're going to pull money from somewhere in your business, what are you willing to pay, or what are you willing to kind of adjust for that? Because we can't, what we're pulling from something so you can free up your time to have more lead generation conversations. So make sure that you're being very intentional. If you are making a hire, where are you going to utilize that additional time, and are you using it wisely? Because that's to build a business, right? And I think the third price you're going to pay is just not doing it at all. There's people that say that they have every intention of building out a database. They've been wanting to build a 36 touch for the last 4 years, but they never got around to it, right? So are you willing to just keep complaining about it and do nothing? Right? But that's totally up to you. But I think those are the 3 prices that you're willing to pay. And you have to decide now, what does that look like for you? Okay. And again, like if it's helpful for us to just have a brainstorm session or even come and work with me one-on-one, I love having just our focused time. Just to carve out that time to make sure that you're being intentional about the time that you're spending. Okay, so really quickly, the basic 8x8 is this is your aggressive campaign, kind of like what I helped build out for Ken, that's establishing yourself as that connection. This is the cement to relationship period. And the 8x8 is the most aggressive campaign that you'll have. And it's 1 contact every single day, or 1 contact a week for 8 weeks. So I don't even think that's aggressive, because the contact system that I just built out for Ken is a text, an email, and a phone call every single day for 2 weeks. And people are responding. So, but this is an example of you can do personal visits, you can do phone calls, you can do items of value, you can do a handwritten note. But when you put people on an 8x8, this is the first time that you've met them, or you're adding them to a campaign, because this is now establishing you more consistently as their preferred agent. And then once you've established or cemented that connection, I'll just let you guys take a picture of that. These are just suggested items of value of what the content of an 8x8 can look like. This is one thing that I'm very passionate about, and I think that we all are too, is what's the value that we can provide to our people, right? We don't want to feel like a bother. I hear that a lot. So these are things that some of the top producers are using that are of value that people will look at and they care about. So once you put them through an 8x8, oh, here's another one. Are examples of an 8x8. So you can do farms, prospective buyers, sphere of influence, open house attendees. So anytime that you go to an open house, put them on an 8x8, because again, that's instilling and cementing that relationship. And then once you've cemented that relationship, now they'll go on to a 36 touch campaign. Good. Okay. So with the 36 touch campaign, one of the things I wanted to point out to you guys, and again, with being in the two, let me go back, sorry.
That one.
And this is supposed to say 36 touch, I'm sorry, it's typo. One of the things that we haven't talked about a lot, and another perk of being in the 201 Plus Club, is that if you have people running on a 36 touch campaign, for once you have 200 people in your database, you can expect to see a 12-to-2 conversion ratio. And that's just by having them on an automated system. And it's 12-to-2, not 6-to-1, because essentially every 12 people that you're marketing to, you can expect to net 2 items of business. And that is saying for every 12 people, you're either going to do business with one of those 12 people, or they're going to refer you out to a friend or family member. And that's why it's 12-to-2. So that's another perk of why we want to use a 36 touch and why we want to have at least 200 people in our database. I mean, if we're getting that 12-to-2 conversion ratio, you're probably going to be over the 158 mark that we have here at our office. So here's kind of a overall version or template of what a 36 touch looks like. If you guys want to stay after this, I'm sorry that we're over, but Kimber has actually built out an incredible 36 touch campaign that is buyer and seller relevant in Command that you could just set up and do it right now, and you can just forget about it if you want to. But neighborhood nurtures at minimum have everybody on neighborhood nurtures. They have buyer seller information that Kimber has that I can show you guys. But then your quarterly calls, your events, holidays. But if you think about it with events, I mean, you've got multiple touches around events as well, right? So for some people, the idea of contacting one person 36 times within 12 months, that's what this is, can be kind of daunting, right? But if you set it up and streamline it and systematize it, all of this is already done for you. And the only thing that you have to do is pick up the phone and make up one call every single quarter. I think we can do that, right? And at that point, you're doing above and beyond what any other agent's doing, absolutely. The last one is the 12 direct campaign, and this would be like a series of direct mail pieces or like your monthly neighborhood nurture or something once a month to your general public or the people that you don't know. So this would be a good example of what you want to put on a farm list. Or think about that circle that we have. What's that general public and bringing it out? So general public, I can't remember what the second circle was. But like the outer 3 people are what you're going to put on a 12 direct to get them coming in full into the center of the circle. It can host events. Some people, like I've heard of people like that have a farm will bring like a food truck to their farm and have like a neighborhood food truck party type thing. You can do something like that, but it's a little bit more span over time. But the key with every single one of these is you have to be consistent. Some people will start like a farm, for example, but until you start seeing the actual results of your efforts for a farm, you have to be doing it for at least 8 to 12 months. Did you know that? You have to be consistent with the farm. And I know Mikkel is really good with the farm, but he's been marketing to that consistently for like 2 to 3 years. And that's now one of his primary sources of business. So if that's what you want to do, stay consistent. And then yeah, don't touch that delete key unless they tell you to unsubscribe. Keep them on the email only campaign and just keep it going. Don't even worry about it. Opting out. Okay, and then obviously servicing all the leads that come your way. Get on the fast track is kind of a really good acronym to follow. So the first step to servicing your leads is to funnel them, assign them, source them, and track them. And again, this is something that Command does for you guys. So funneling the leads, make sure that you're tracking your lead generation sources because we want to make sure that you're holding your dollars accountable. In this book, it actually reminded me that, have you guys heard of the rule of 4? The rule of 4 says, in our research, we've discovered that millionaire agents generally have 4 primary lead generation strategies that generate most of their income. On average, their top 4 generated 82% of their closed business. We call this a rule of 4. So what I like to tell people is I like to say, you know, we as realtors, we are marketed and solicited the crap out of, and it's easy to have like shiny object syndrome, but keep your horse blinders on and pick. I like to say the 2 or 3 things that you're good at, but this is saying 4. So pick your 4 lead sources that you want to focus on for next year and get systems around every single one of those 4 lead sources. This is a graph that you can see that shows the difference between people who have 4 lead sources as opposed to agents that are just kind of like doing it sporadically. So pick those 4 and build them deep and don't build them wide. Cause if you've got a couple really good things that are going really well, build that deep. And that's what you want to do. You want to be good at what you like, right? If you're not the person that wants to make a bunch of cold calls all day long like me, then what are you willing to do? Okay, assigning the leads, assign them to proper groups in your database. That's again, tagging them. I cannot stress the importance of tagging your leads. You got to track your people, guys. So figure out what those leads or those tags look like when you put people in and have rules on how those works how each tag works. Geographic farm, co-op agents, referring agents. Guys, build out your referral networks too. Keller Williams has the largest referral network in real estate. So start picking, get an agent in LA, get an agent in Denver, get an agent in Austin, and all the big cities, and put them on a 12 direct. And that at least once a month, they're getting something from you saying, hey, I am your Utah referral partner. Here's another example of sourcing leads. Yes.
What kind of marketing material, what kind of value are we giving to them
To people
on
in
a 12 direct
for like out of state people, like
referral
Referral.
sources?
You could do just like overall Utah stats if you want to. I think just generic information is good. I'm on a drip campaign that I can send you from a referring agent in Phoenix, and it's literally just a reminder. Hey, I send 40% referral fees if you need anything in Phoenix area. I'm your person. So it could just be something generic, like no brainer, but at least make sure that it gets done. I think that that goes a long way for me to just
I
dread.
think it's just a consistent reminder. I get one
Mhm.
from it, and the subject is always your whatever, and then it's your Dallas Fort Worth partner,
Yep.
right? So it's like 30% referral, your Dallas Fort Worth partner. Bring in Texas, your Dallas Fort Worth, like that's in every single subject. So if I ever have a referral in that area, that's instantly I'm gonna go to, because it's just the consistency of me seeing something from them regularly.
Yes, yeah, I'm done now. I'm done. So we'll bring our sponsor in. Give me like 2 ahas real quick. What's like what are you doing today to
Put
go
it together
take
after
action?
they go in, then you can put it all together.
What?
Then you can put it all together.
Then,
Have more for the putting it all together. You can put it all.
oh, yeah. Okay, you wanna bring them in now? Is that what you're saying? Okay, bring in sponsor. Thank you guys for staying a little bit longer. I hope this was of value. I feel like it was good content. It kind of gave us a little something. Okay, sweet.
You guys ready? Sorry.
Sorry, we went so over.
You're good.
Introduce yourself, tell us who you are. Anything else here? Can I help you?
Yeah, I want to ask one.
Each row.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Miles. I've been here before. This year, I think it was years ago. Anyway, the name I'm with the property management company. The name of the company is EMI Northern Utah. This is Justin. Hey, Justin. And then, so I know a couple of people in this here. But I am a local property management company. We manage properties in Davis and Newton counties. We'll go a little bit into Salt Lake, and a little bit into Box Elder. It's a franchise. I bought it in 2013. We are definitely in the mode of growth. We would love to get more properties. I passed out a rental analysis.
What's your first name?
It's Daniel.
I'm Alicia.
Oh, how are you? Talk to your sister today. I haven't even met you. So, nice. Yes, good to see you. Meet you. Anyway, so here's a free rental analysis that we can run anytime. So if you guys are talking to clients or looking to run other properties, you can call me anytime and we can run these for you and send them to you. But we're full service management, so we do everything from advertising the property, the background checks, getting leases signed, coordinating maintenance, collecting rents, you name it, we do it. We manage about 350 units, got a good staff.
That's in a nutshell what we do. We also give some discounts or deals to agents that refer people to us. So we'll lower those fees a little bit.
For the client.
So we're at normally 9%, we're going down to 7%. So we pay out small referral fees. We don't make a lot of money per property. It's not a lot of money there, but we do pay out some, like $350 once the property is. So we'll do, and then we don't do any full service, like we don't do listings or help buyers. So if you guys refer a client to us and we manage the property, when that it's time for them to sell or whatever, we will then refer it back to you guys. So you guys don't lose out on that. So our job is to make sure they're happy, and so that way when it's time for them to sell, whatever, we get back. I think a lot of real estate agents are afraid once they refer it over to these property management companies that they'll steal that. So we won't do that. We have a system in place. We have a contract that we can sign that won't. So yeah, we're looking at this. Right. Yeah.
Plus, there is a property management company that in their agreement, it says that they sell the property during the time of the agreement, that they are the ones that list it.
There's a lot
It's
of.
not uncommon, so I mean, it sounds like it's a bad business practice, but it's not uncommon.
Right, there's a lot of property management. I'd say most of them do that.
Most of them have that in there.
Right. And we don't do that at all. Of course, I have to have my license, but I've never done a transaction. So I've always just. So I wanna, and I'm too busy anyways to do it. I want to do what we're good at and then focus on what you guys are good at. So, does anybody have any questions?
I'll just give you a little testimonial.
Yeah.
He is like a wealth of knowledge. I've had him in my rental. Run the numbers.
Yeah. Thanks, Jesse.
Do you have a card contact?
Yeah, we have it. So I already have it in the top right, but I have more.
Okay.
You can pass.
Grab the vendor board.
What's that?
I'll grab the vendor board.
Top right of the thing.
One other thing to say that's really helpful, when we do like the rental performance that we went through the other day, into that class. He's a great resource. You need to find out what rents go in a certain area or just a ballpark. He helped me out quite a bit and he might find property we manage right now. I got a lot of good things to say about. But if you ever need just questions on rental, just a rough idea of like rental rates, you move on that as you're working through some of those performance.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, because the rents have definitely changed and shifted over the last year or so. A couple of years ago, it seems like we could kind of get what we wanted, but since last September, things have changed. There's a lot more inventory on the market right now, so we're just not able to rent out these properties that we used to. So when you're talking to clients, we try to be real with numbers and try to give them like what we can. Obviously, we'll advertise whatever they would like, but our job is to. Yeah, we rent probably about 15 homes a month, so we're in it. We're seeing it every single day. Any other questions?
Why there's more properties in the market? Like, why is that? It's changing.
I imagine everywhere, building, it's the only thing I can see, everywhere you go, it seems like they're building multiplexes everywhere. We're used to showing, last couple of years, we're used to showing properties that people would say, this is the only property available in the area. Now when we're showing properties, people are saying, yeah, I'm looking at 6 or 7 more. So it's definitely, definitely changed. So that's going to bring that price down a little bit. Rents are still good. It's just not, it's probably on average with down 100 to 150, maybe 200 depending on. But it's still, yeah. So I feel like it's more of a balanced market. Which is good.
Do you find that the rental market kind of follows the real estate market, the selling market?
Yes, I saw that and I thought the rents were going to keep going this last year. So it's kind of normally I would see it follow, especially with rates going up. I thought, man, this is gonna. But it's kind of, I think it's a lot of, depends on the inventory.
And I think it depends on what you're looking for, right? The multiplexes, like I have property in Washington, I know Justin does too. Those 2 bedrooms, if you pull up right now, bedroom apartments in Ogden, there's a ton of available, right? So that's gonna affect the rent more than maybe a single family home in Syracuse may not have as much inventory. So it's just really about what's there.
Right. And I was telling Mikkel this a little earlier, but we manage like 350, we have on the market right now. I think we have 15 on the market, but I'd say 5 or 6 are vacant, so our vacancy rates are really low. Alicia's yours was on the market for, I think, 2 weeks after the tenants moved out. I think that's right.
Yeah.
They moved out end of August, we had some September 15th, I think,
Little bit of that.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's what we like anyway, so that way we can make sure the property's in good shape and we can get it.
It's just right.
Any other questions? Okay, sweet. We got lunch out there. We got Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A, so.
Yes.
You guys- Thank you very much.
Hey guys, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for staying, but it was a value. If you want, you have to get started. That I have a reference. Go to creativeredlabel.com. creativeredlabel.com, and then you can just buy it right there for $25. They are a little bit back ordered, so ours can take a couple weeks to get there, but I will get it placed.
I don't know.
They got it. Okay. Yes, sir.
There is a third final.
Yeah, I'm.
So there's so many.
Everything that travels.